Welcome to the ClashKO podcast. I'm Colton Cruz.
I'm Wyatt Garland.
Welcome to the podcast where we analyze anime
And punch things with our mouths.
Today's topic is Overlord.
Yes, real excited about it. But before we get into that, just in case your ears get full, we've got some prime visual content over on our channel, ClashKO. So check that out. But right now we're going to be dishing about a really interesting series. It's really setting a different pace.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even talked about season 1 on the channel before.
Yeah, so it's an over.
So we went to season. I remember when season 1, I watched it and it was just like, what is this random weird thing? Mm-hmm. It's got a lich in it, so I'm immediately intrigued.
He's like, I'll watch an episode.
I mean, it's got a lich. How bad could it be?
And it was deep fantasy, so I'm like, all right. Are there dragons? Are there gonna be dragons?
It's not even, oh, there's a lich in it. It's oh no, the main character is a lich. And it's all right, so you guys are doing something.
And they start pretty deep. It's your standard, oh, I'm a gamer lost in a fantasy world and I get stuck.
It's trapped in it, yeah, so that's the thing. It's one of those oh, he gets transported for real into the video game. But that's the thing, it's not just oh, it's this new game or it's this game that's so popular. It's literally so they had this big thing where World of Warcraft servers were getting taken down about the same time this came out. Oh, yeah. And they would have these big things where all of these people who played WoW for 10 years or even back when they were kids and stuff, they came onto the server to all just kind of I don't know, bear witness to it being turned off.
Wow.
And they were all these really just it was, it's like a strange
ceremony.
Yeah, and it's almost spiritual in the sense of
you're putting your time.
Yeah, but it's so new at the same time. It's this was only possible in the last decade, but it's treated with this weird reverence because all of these people spent so much of their time on it.
I think it's the kind of time, because it's not necessarily the time. People go to work all day and they don't feel a religious aptitude if their building gets burned down. They're like, whatever. But it's time they 100% decided to spend on them. They spend their money. The protagonist of Overlord, the Lich, he's kind of in that same state where he can't really let go of this world. Every other player is logged out. He's the last one. He's the guild manager or whatever. Yeah. And he saved all their armor. He can't bear to sell anything. And essentially it's it's kind of an older game. It's being phased out or something. So he's just I guess I should go. But I think the idea is he stays too long and he gets stuck or whatever. But the best part about the being stuck in a video game mechanic is they abandon it almost immediately.
Yeah. So all it really does is serve as a vehicle for him to be oh, I can inner monologue without it being just fucking weird.
Yeah. And he'll do things, but they might as well be magic. He only technically alters the world once. And I mean, that's where we'll get to here's the anime thing. It's a niche audience, obviously. They knew they were doing it.
I mean, it's also all about, boys getting to be whatever they want to be in video games and being, he's the top tier
hyper
thing.
Fantasy. He's the Overlord.
So obviously,
he gets a wafu, 100%. Yeah. He codes in this random, it is a character that exists that's kind of his servant or whatever, and then he codes in that it likes him for just kicks, but it just turns her into an obsessive, creature, and he's freaked out by it. But he obviously rolls with it because he's what?
It's interesting too because he does that as kind of his player character, but the avatar, the Lich he plays is almost a different character. He plays a character to even all of these NPC characters that are created.
It's really cool.
And so it adds an extra layer of depth to it for sure.
Yeah. He tries to be he tries to come off as someone who's very pious and very I know what I'm doing.
Mastermind-esque,
Yeah, so he puts on what he'd assume these guardians would expect of him. And, I mean, I don't know, I'd say only about, a third of every episode, or even less than that, is even spent on him. A lot of it. Most of the show is the internal dialogue, the internal disputes, the actual interactions between his servants, who might as well just be characters working for a boss.
Right.
He doesn't treat them like servants. They act like servants, but kind of the idea is he's trying to be no, I don't...
He's trying to push them to being independent because...
Exactly.
So, what happens
he wants friends.
His kingdom gets transported to basically what we could assume is either a real fantasy world or another video game. Mm-hmm. And so he's ooh, how do these rules work and, how can I make sure to, protect... he gets to extend the legacy, basically.
Right.
But, like, he kind of, like, comes to the realization that he needs to push these NPC characters to be more independent to, like, thrive in this, like, world.
Right, because he begins to view them as friends or children. There's lots of different metaphors. But the goal of each of the Guardians is to exist as one of those, clearly.
Yeah.
Like, there's some younger Guardians who... I mean, there's one younger Guardian who likes him, and that's weird. But then there's a couple younger Guardians who just... The elves, who just... they kind of look up to him.
Chill, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're boss, and we're like 10, but you're cool. So he's like... He's got to set an example for them. He's got to learn how to deal with, his wannabe wife. And he's like, I'm not used to this at all. Like, I'm a nerd. No one's ever paid or... cared about me.
Yeah, I get it. It very much like does a lot of good commentary on like the nerd video game player thing. Just in the sense that like not even that like he makes that decision, but like all of these NPCs were basically each one of them was like built by one of his like guildmates.
Oh my god.
So all of them not only like so like they all reveal something about the main character, but as you learn more about them too, they reveal like about whoever created them. Like again, there's this second layer of like yeah, one of you guys definitely made a gothic Lolita vampire like tsundere. Like
on purpose.
That's obviously a decision one of them made for, of course, obvious reasons.
But
like,
there's this great moment where that vampire character is in a carriage talking to other NPCs, and she's talking about like what a voice actress is. Because she's like, no, I heard my god talk about it once. Apparently, creators can imbue their magic and give life to things. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah,
and then you switch to the actual conversation, and it's this guy, like, as one of the characters back in the video game world, complaining about how he can't play this new adult game because his sister is the voice actress in it. And he's like, well, that would be weird. But then later they reveal when he's using his weapon that he set his sister's voice to the weapon thing, so you're like, so okay.
But like again, like so, like there's all these like it's kind of like like a BoJack Horseman thing where it's like they have all these jokes they can at any time make because of this second layer. But then we can get really deep into kind of the intrigue of the fantasy world. Oh, yeah. So like in the first season, it's basically about him like, I'm so powerful, I can literally just change my class to being a knight. And because I'm such a powerful wizard, like me being a knight, I'm so much more, I'm still like super powerful. Oh, yeah. So he like is masquerading as like a like just a regular adventurer and kind of learning about the world. But then like we season 2 is just out and we've just watched 4 episodes of it.
It's good.
And it's so interesting because like even more than last season, they're just like, we're just gonna go super deep into this other world,
exactly,
like the straight fantasy. Like.
Yeah, and in this world, they are basically monsters, and the best part about, I mean, they're all pretty, I mean, he's a lich, and it's a crypt. Like, it's not only just, I'm an overlord, it's like, I'm a dark overlord. That's the idea. And the show is about it, and all the character designs are about it. There's heavy metal, like, in the intro.
Yeah, like, his guild is, like, definitely, like, an evil guild. Like, they have, the like, NPCs are, like, like, a cicada monster, a vampire, a demon, another demon.
Two elves with different color eyes.
Heterochromat elves,
And they just have armies of skeletons and stuff, and it's...
The NPC he creates is a Nazi.
Oh, that was good! Because they don't say it, but the best part is later when he sees it, and his other higher level guardians are like... they don't think he's cool. Like, he takes his own NPC aside, he's like... Listen, just stop.
Yeah, and I love that they do the thing too. Like, I think it was a good commentary where he's like, all right, I'm gonna apologize right now. I made this character when I was 14, and I thought it was cool. Okay?
Yeah, and that's the
he knows he made a mistake.
Yeah, and that's the reason. And I mean, they got nice clothes, whatever. But the point is, there's a lot of that in there, and there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of fun stuff. But my favorite part, since it's all a dark guild, all of the characters have this very superior tone. They're like, well, of course, our Dark Lord knows exactly what to do, and I'm a servant of my Dark Lord, so I also think like, all of their powers are also evil. Like, the demon, it's revealed in the second season, can just tell people things and they have to do them.
Yeah, he has like command spells and stuff. It's great. They control skeleton armies.
They all got a bad attitude, and they all think they're also an overlord. It's great. So it just really propels, because you've got these NPCs that are all also aggressively like, no, I'm gonna control things. Like, I'm also a player.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all like at a power level where they are lords as well. Like, he's the overlord for sure, but like each one of the NPCs has their own shit going on. They're like, no, I have my own faction that I'm running.
They've got 3 other like servants. They've got their own tier spells.
Yeah,
and they are honestly the only real enemies, and that's what I think this show is gonna be about. The first season kind of goes through him figuring things out, how to flex on the world, but the only real issue of the season is that something happens and someone possesses one of his own guardians.
Yeah, he has to fight one of his own NPCs.
And it ends up being really hard. Like, technically, it's at the end of the day, he's like, no, I had it all in the bag because, like, I planned it all out.
Yeah.
But he had to blow, like, a lot of supplies. It was a lot of stress. He had to think about it, like, and in this stressful thing that he had to do, he also learns that he has to communicate to the NPCs that, no, I know I'm going to be okay because I'm a player, but you don't understand that you kind of think I'm a god, but not a god, because they're worried about him, basically. He's like, guys, I'm playing the game. I know what I'm like, but he can't really say that because when he does, he just comes off even more as a god, and that just alienates him more. And his goal is clearly to just become closer with the characters.
Yeah, and I think like even more than that, we're obviously like, I don't know if you guys could tell, but like we scramble a little bit to say even what the plot is, and I think that's my favorite thing about this series. Though it's like season 1. I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's like he finds out he's in another world and he ends up having to fight one of his NPCs. That's really plot-wise all that really happens. Yeah. Like, this series makes no promises. There is no, like...
Nothing!
Like, there's no setup and payoff in the way that we typically appreciate.
Exactly.
It's very much every episode, it's like, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. Like, I have no idea where this is going. I still have no idea where this is going.
It's wonderful. It's so refreshing. It's only 8 episodes for the first season, and then there's 4 now. I don't know how long the second season will be. But it's such a, it's a different pace. That's what you're talking about.
It's just, it doesn't seem, like, it feels so comfortable in the way that it's like, nah, I don't even have a story to tell. Like, it doesn't stress about getting things across. It's like, no, I mean, like, if you're confused by these 2 episodes, like... enjoy the ride, or like, like this, that doesn't even, like, not even that, like, oh, that's like incomprehensible. It's like, don't even stress about it because it doesn't. You're not meant to pick anything up.
Exactly, and the thing, it's that nice even layer though, because you'd think that it'd almost be like a background anime. I think I was watching with Bree, and she wasn't really like tuned in because it is kind of like that, where they're just talking, and you're like, oh, okay, all right. There's a lot of talking. It's not a super heavy action anime, but it makes up for it with. It's got really tight.
It does
animation.
Its fight scenes kind of like in blocks. Like
it's the color is always consistent. The art is always consistent. But yeah, there are things. They are talking about stuff. It's long-term payoff. They're talking about like world-building consequences. And I mean, you respect the show enough that you're not like, well, it's going at a pace where I'm not worried about it. Like, it's like, oh, there's that small detail. Yeah. Okay, they'll get to it if they need to. I may learn something else about another culture. Like, the most exciting part is that you're kind of watching someone decide how they want the plot to go.
Yeah, for sure. Like, because, like, what is it? The first 4 episodes of this season, it's just all about these lizard people.
Oh my god!
Of a sudden.
And
it's just deep on these lizard people.
In love,
like they're just like, oh no, like, that plot that was going on. Let's just focus on lizard dudes for 4 episodes. It's just like, and like, I'm kind of annoyed by it, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like. No, I mean, you made me no promises about what you should be doing. So I have no standing to be like, well, they should be spending time on this. It's like, no, they can spend time on whatever they want because they haven't, they haven't made any bets with me. It's no, I mean, it's completely up to you what you spend any time on because I have no right to say anything.
Yeah, it's doing its own damn thing. And my favorite part about the lizard people is exactly that. It's so it's just, it doesn't care. It's like, we're going to get into the culture, we're going to get into the power system, we're going to get into the cultural dynamics, we're going to get into the attitudes of certain lizards towards people, we're going to get into mating rituals, like romantic interactions, what is normal, attitudes, every single thing you could, it solves the problem.
Racism, class division.
Yeah, everything. Cannibalism, cannibalism. It checks all the boxes.
And like the whole time, it's like, you are kind of like, okay, but like what's happening with the Lich? Like, but like,
and then
it's
you
just
get
like,
that.
but it's just like, no, like, we don't have to tell you what the Lich is doing. We ain't gotta do shit. Like,
because that's the thing. He's doing his own thing. I guess apparently what's happening in the new season is they're going to govern the lizard people. So this is kind of an
and like that's the thing. So you feel that setup coming on. You're like, okay, so like we're learning a lot about the lizard people because they're gonna join the side with the Lich. Right. But the thing is, then like that 4 episodes in, like the Lich is just like, I mean, I guess we can rule him. Like, it's very much like, oh no, he didn't give a shit one way or the other whether they just murdered them all or like run them.
Yeah.
Obviously, like this is where we're getting to like, okay, the show's making a little bit of a promise here that they're not going to just murder all the lizard people.
And they have one of the Guardians watch the lizard people. He wages war, and the thing is, the Lich would have been okay. The main character would have been okay if the Guardian was like, no, I'm going to kill them all. He was like, okay, if that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
But he was really excited. In fact, the first time he really has expressed joy in the series as a character was when one of his NPCs showed this hesitant nature. He's like, listen, I mean, I'm kind of against completely slaughtering this race. And he's like, really? And then even one of the other NPCs was kind of like edging it on. It's like, I think he's trying to say, like, it was.
I love Demerge.
Oh, Demerge is beautiful.
He's just the best.
That
command voice too was so good.
You may sit. Like, it's really good. But I think
it shows that snappiness. You know, it's like, oh no, like he's the smartest, but he's also just like no like bones about it.
Yeah,
like,
I think he's probably no, exactly. I mean, he's probably the second strongest. I mean, I guess technically his wife or whatever.
Well, like the thing that's fun about Demerge is it's not that he's the strongest, he's the smartest.
Yeah, he is.
And obviously that's why I like him so much. Is the series very much like sets him up as like, oh no, he is smarter than all of the other ones.
Right.
He's got a planning, scheming nature, and that will become something one day.
Exactly. Like, and he's the first one. He's always the first one exactly to see what the Lich is talking about. Say, oh, okay, so you're telling him to do this. I'm gonna help.
Yeah, he gets subtext.
Yeah. But what's interesting is he might be able to read even more between the lines. And dig even deeper. Because who knows?
Because there are no problems.
Yeah, like maybe every season is him fighting one of them, you know? Like they could split up. Clearly the most powerful people are the ones we already know.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna introduce, I'm sure, other powers within like the thing, but like the idea is like no, like we got a fully loaded gun right now,
And I guess it's based off a manga.
It's not based off a manga. It's based off like a light novel. Probably a light novel series.
No, but I have seen some pages.
Yeah, there's some art. Yeah, so like light novels, that's what they do. Is it's like one illustration to like, let's say 5 pages of text.
Okay. All right.
It's not like graphic novel, but it's like we accompany it with art. Like,
Interessante.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and that's where we keep getting series like Fate or something like that, where it's like, oh, this is based on something that's like a much looser story.
Right.
And like Fate has that same thing where it's like, I don't know what you're like. Anything could happen, I guess, because you've made no promises.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like Overlord very much sits in a like different thing where it's like, no, like I'm really comfortable with it not making promises and not like giving us like, this is where the story's gonna go. It's kind of like, no, I'm good to let you just feed me in the chunks that you want with Overlord.
It's bragging almost, because it will spend entire episodes talking about the political structure of a kingdom that hasn't even been introduced yet, but it's just so damn interesting. Yeah. That's what I said. You're just like, this is just as fast as might as well be Game of Thrones. Like,
it's a lot like Game of Thrones in that sense, where it's like, it's just like, it's not even that like it's it's not even that it's telling like the most interesting story so much as that it's so deliberate in the way that it's telling the story that it's like, oh, I mean, I don't know what else to ask for.
Yeah, nobody
like, as you tell me this,
nobody
like,
seems to have plot armor.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the main character is completely overpowered, but that's kind of the point. Like, that's what it's about. Like, it's about...
Yeah. Well, they very much balance it too, where he's like, arrogance is my greatest weakness. Like me thinking I can just like tank something is the greatest threat to me.
That's how I'm gonna die.
So I'm just gonna be as careful as possible.
Yeah.
Like it's superb for sure.
Very good.
So what do you think's gonna happen in season 2? Like, what do you think like going for? What do you want to see?
Personal pitch is, well, I think the lizard folk are gonna, I think we're kind of done listening to what they're... I think now we're jumping into the Guardians, and we're going to see one of the Guardians... And this is interesting, because he's the dumbest one. The Scarab one who, oversees this group, he's the dumbest Guardian. Like, let's be real. He's just a bug person, so, he's not smart. But he, I think, is supposed to represent the viewer in the sense that... He's like, no, I'm grappling with this the same rate you guys are. Because when he says, because the Lich tells him, the main character tells him, he's like, hey, you need to go kill all these lizards. And he's just like, and like, that's exactly how I felt watching that scene.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
oh, well, we're killing the lizards?
Are we? And then he's like, because he was there with you. You were watching the lizards. The Lich was doing his own thing. He's going on missions. Other people doing it. But the Scarab was there waging his initial attack, his war. And he was watching. He wasn't doing anything other than watching. And he was like, no, I made some mistakes. But he was watching. He's just like, I mean, you start to understand. No, he was watching everything. So he was getting invested, and he was the viewer. So I think now we're going to get a taste of what it feels like to be an Overlord as well. So this second season is about the Scarab, the Guardian, sort of like doing the governing thing. It's an experiment to the Lich, to the main character, and to the higher level demons and stuff. They're like, oh, this will be interesting. Ooh. Because I think one of them blatantly were like, well, I don't think we get good zombie levels from them.
Right.
Like,
they break it down like chemically. They're like, all right, so if we, I'm just hear me out. Yeah. If we murder all the lizard people, we could raise them as zombies, but they're really not going to be a higher level than our regular zombies.
Or the lizard people themselves. So they're only tier 4 undead or something.
Yeah. They were just, but like, I love the way that they're just like, again, they're all evil, so they're just breaking it down like, well, if we did murder everybody.
That is on the table.
Like, I mean, why would we even take that off the table? Like,
table's built on murder.
But I love that too, because like I think kind of going on with that, like I think what they're gonna have to do is it's like we've developed at least, let's say, 4 lizard people to be actual characters.
Yeah.
We get to now, I think, see the lords have to protect a character other than the Lich. So like. We get to see them kind of like, grow their empathetic or their family,
Right.
Because I mean, that's the thing. Everybody else is like at the beck and call of the Lich. So having characters that like have to be protected in some other capacity or have to be loved in some other capacity.
So that's where you might get lost.
I think that's where, it has to
so
kind of
it's
grow.
Eventually going to be the people, and I just love how they're it's lizard people, and then they're gonna do other demi-humans or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna just go talk to humans.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing about the lizard culture, I mean, it's very tribal. They don't make it's not super complicated, but there were a couple really great story writing ideas that they just put in the culture because they could. And I think the first one is like the Traveler, the guy who's got the tattoo on his chest. He's like, no.
Yeah, they immediately make it like a really complex society for sure.
And he's been kicked out, but when he's in the chief's table, his brother's the chief, they bring him over. The old guys are like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. And they're just like, shut up, he's smart. And that's it. They never question him ever again.
But the thing is, like, that was the only thing that scene was there for was like, hey, there's friction here. Like, like just so you know, like easy.
It's very good.
It's smart.
And even the romance, I think, was really there's a romance between the Traveler and one of the other priests. I mean, it's supposed to be simple and straightforward because they're lizards.
Yeah, they're lizard people. But that's the thing I like, because because I remember when I saw the demi-humans and but the thing is they had like that whole scene with like the human court thing going on. Right. I was like, okay, so like is this going to be like every other anime fantasy thing where he joins on the human side and they basically fight demi-humans? Or is this, because it's Overlord, it's going to be like, oh, he's going to gather all the demi-humans to go conquer the humans. And I like that it, again, just did neither. Like, it's just like, no, because that's the thing, then it focuses on the lizard. I'm like, okay, so he's going to, like, join the demi-human side. And it's like, no, they were just going to kill them all, I guess. But then they're like, but, oh, no, I guess we will, like, use them. So I'm like, okay, I like that they're just, like, they're not going to go a basic route here.
Right. And that's what it feels like. And the relationships are real. They've got characters actually interacting with each other. They're building things, and they're building relationships that you want to protect as the viewer.
Yeah.
And then you have the Guardians who have to protect that. So then you're getting this. It's a beautiful multiplication setup, and that's what we love here. We love it when there's a Clash KO. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna get to a point where the Lich makes a decision that puts the lizard people in jeopardy. And then what happens is one of the child of the two lizards that love each other gets hurt or killed, and then that is the Lich's fault,
Yeah.
All that, there's gonna be stacking like that. Or like one of these lizards is gonna fight in the war later, and you're like, we just spent like 3 episodes, and I love this guy. He's here, sweet.
Well, it's that thing too, like you just said with that friction point of like the traveler. It's like, ooh, a little bit of friction in the society. I feel like that's an example of exactly what's going to happen when the society is under, the subjugation of a lich. It's like, no, there's going to be other friction points, and that's gonna spread into his ranks of the NPC characters.
Yeah. They talked about it like briefly. The lizard people had a small victory, so they had like a feast and stuff, and they were talking about like, yeah, I mean, pretty scared, there could be more, we have no idea.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they're just talking about surrender, because they're like, we should give up, right? Like, we should give up.
Well, yeah, when the Lich shows up, and which they do, it's the first, a really big action Lich thing we get, is they just do basically, a tour de force of the Lich, of, him commanding the skeletons to make stairs. He controls weather like it's nothing. He, freezes the swamp so he doesn't have to walk in mud, does all this. And then he has his NPCs, order them to, prostrate themselves and stuff like that. And the thing is, I love that they have, the lizard people, all of that happens, and the lizard guy is, immediately, we surrender. And he's like, oh, no, fucking get to surrender.
Don't waste my time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a good show of...
People are watching.
What this is, because, what can be done in this show? The thing that's going to always be exciting about this show is digging things out of the Lich's vault.
Yeah,
that is, they can build the world as much as they want, but end of the day, every solution to a problem is gonna have to be solved with well, back when we were gaming, we did this complicated thing that I know how to do now, and it's okay, that's exciting. That's the only setup payoff that we're promised is oh, something from the Lich's kingdom is going to be relevant at some point.
And what is it? The one that they've already showed. So, how many Guardians does he have technically?
100. Of the high level ones?
The high level ones, he's got 6 or 7.
Yeah, he's got
right?
7, yeah.
But then it was so ridiculous. I'm blinking. This strange fetus monster.
It's just extra.
He's like, yes, the guardian of the 11th floor, and you're like, wait a minute, they haven't even said how many floors they are. There could just be there could be 100, and the fetus is like, I'm an omnipresent sacrifice, clearly made just to be destroyed, and the Lich is like, yeah, no, I'm gonna kill you to activate your ability. We'll do that later. I'll bring it back to life. Don't worry. And he's like, I was made to die. Don't worry about it.
I live to serve.
So you just got this time bomb that could do anything.
And that's the only promises this series really makes is oh no, they're gonna pull some bullshit out of
this penguin,
the Lich crypt,
penguin butler.
Yeah,
that has a crush on the vampire. Buys her a drink. What the hell? It doesn't matter.
It's so weird. It's so good.
It's really good. And there's some weird stuff in there, but the best part is the weird stuff is such a basic reaction to, no, this was a video game, remember?
Yeah.
None of that weird stuff exists in the actual fantasy world. Oh, the lol vampire and the weirdo wife, that's all just because it's a video game.
Yeah, I do love that it's the lizard people would just be like, what the fuck is this?
What's going on?
This is a complex social structure that's very different from our own, but
They're God, demons, man, how do they even do it? It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, so, What is you? Did you already say what you think is happening?
Yeah. I think it's gonna like that friction's gonna move up the line.
Okay, so you're thinking that it's.
I think there'll be rebellion or like conflict at least like within the group. Like that Penguin obviously has like a different goal that we were just talking about. Like,
yes, obviously.
But yeah,
it'll be the Penguin.
I'm excited for Overlord season 2.
Yeah, hopefully they have more episodes, so that'll be a big factor.
Yeah, because there were 10, I think, in season 1. So if
were there
10? I mean, it's only 6 more to go, but I mean,
still,
they could make it longer. It's pretty popular now.
Yeah, it's getting there. I saw a couple cosplayers like gathering it up because honestly, some good cosplay bait in that show.
Oh yeah,
some good ones. Like there's some good stuff there. So yeah, it's got a lot of promise. So yeah.
That's a KO, guys.
Check it out.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Tune in next week for more hard-hitting content.